Imagine waking up in the year 1318. The wind has already been screaming outside for hours. Before you even open your eyes, you can hear the waves crashing against the black cliffs below your tiny stone house. The entire building shakes as if the sea itself is trying to pull it into the darkness. No one is coming to help you. No soldiers. No king. No neighbors. For miles in every direction, there is only the ocean, and you. History remembers kings who won battles. It remembers explorers who discovered new lands. It remembers famous generals whose names filled books. But almost nobody remembers the lonely people who made sure those heroes survived long enough to become history. Tonight, you are one of them. You are the keeper of a forgotten lighthouse standing alone on the edge of a medieval world. Every single evening, before the sun disappears, you must climb more than 200 worn stone steps carrying heavy bundles of firewood, barrels of whale oil, and iron tools. If you fail, the light disappears. If the light disappears, ships disappear. Entire families vanish beneath the freezing sea without anyone ever knowing their names. No one will thank you when everything goes well. People only notice the lighthouse when it goes dark. And tonight, something feels terribly wrong. The sky has turned an unnatural shade of gray hours before sunset. The birds that normally circle the cliffs have vanished. Even the sea is behaving strangely. Old sailors always said the ocean speaks before a great storm. Today, it is whispering. You pull your heavy wool cloak tighter around your shoulders and step outside. The cold air bites your face like tiny knives. Below you, endless waves crash against rocks that have swallowed hundreds of ships over the centuries. Somewhere beneath that water lie broken masts, shattered cargo, forgotten treasures. And thousands of people whose stories ended without anyone writing them down. Your story could easily become one of theirs. But there is no choice. The fire must burn. It always burns. Even if the wind tears your hands apart. Even if the rain blinds you. Even if the tower itself begins to shake. Because somewhere beyond the horizon, a captain is searching for your light. A father is trying to return home to his children. A young sailor is making his very first voyage. None of them know your name. None of them ever will. Yet tonight, their lives depend entirely on a single flame that only you can protect. So take one last deep breath. Pick up the lantern. Begin climbing the endless stone staircase. And pray that when darkness finally covers the sea, your light is still waiting for them.
The moment you step outside, the wind steals the warmth from your body. It isn't the kind of cold that simply makes you uncomfortable. This cold feels alive. It slips beneath your wool cloak through every seam of your clothes, wrapping icy fingers around your skin until even breathing begins to hurt. Above you rises the lighthouse, a tall circular tower built from rough gray stone standing on the highest cliff for nearly 100 years. Its walls are scarred by storms, its windows are small enough to keep the sea from breaking them. From a distance it looks strong. Up close, every crack tells a different story. You know each one by heart. You have spent nearly 15 years walking these same paths. Every morning, every evening, every storm, every winter. The people in the nearest fishing village call you the Keeper. Most have forgotten your real name. Perhaps you have too. It hardly matters anymore. The lighthouse has become your life. You begin loading supplies into a worn wooden basket, dry oak logs, bundles of kindling wrapped in old cloth, heavy jars of whale oil, a flint striker, iron tongs, a long-handled poker blackened by years of smoke. Nothing here is light. Every evening you carry nearly your own weight to the top of the tower. No horses can climb these stairs, no carts fit through the narrow doorway. Only your legs, only your hands, only your determination. You lift the basket onto your shoulders, the ropes dig painfully into your coat, you wince, then begin climbing. The first 20 steps are easy. The next 50 remind you how old your knees have become. By the 100th step, your breathing grows heavier. The stone staircase twists endlessly upward inside the tower. Tiny windows cut into the wall allow brief flashes of gray daylight to spill across the ancient stones. Dust dances in the air. Some steps are smooth from thousands of feet before yours. Others remain chipped where careless workers dropped heavy stones generations ago. Who built this place? No one truly knows. Some say monks designed it. Others claim a forgotten lord paid for its construction after losing 3 sons at sea. Stories survive longer than facts. History rarely bothers to explain ordinary things. Halfway up, you stop to catch your breath. Not because you wish to, because your body insists. You lean against the cold stone wall. Far below, the sea roars through the narrow windows like a giant beast trapped beneath the cliffs. Its voice never leaves, even when you sleep, even when you dream. Sometimes you wonder if silence still exists anywhere in the world. You continue climbing, one hand gripping the basket, the other trailing across the wall for balance. Your boots scrape against centuries-old stone. Each sound echoes upward, clack, 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 like a heartbeat inside the tower. Finally, the staircase ends. You push open the heavy wooden door leading into the lantern room. A rush of freezing air crashes into your face. The glass surrounding the beacon is already trembling under powerful gusts. Clouds race across the sky so quickly they seem almost alive. The sea below has changed color. It is no longer blue nor gray. It has become nearly black. You set the basket down carefully. The old fire from the previous night has burned itself into glowing embers. Not enough. You kneel, arrange fresh wood, layer kindling, pour oil with practiced precision. One careless movement could waste the week's supply. You strike the flint. Once, nothing. Twice, only sparks. A third strike, a tiny orange flame appears. You cup your hands around it, shielding it from the hungry wind. Slowly, patiently. The fire begins to grow. First a whisper, then a flicker, then a steady golden light fills the room. Outside, darkness continues gathering over the sea. Somewhere beyond the horizon, ships are already searching for this single flame, and they have no idea how close it came to never being lit.
The fire burns steadily now. Golden light spills through the thick glass windows of the lantern room, stretching far across the restless sea. Somewhere in the darkness, sailors will see it and breathe a little easier. You allow yourself a single quiet smile. For now, your duty is done. Or so you think. Then, a strange sound reaches your ears. Not thunder. Not wind. Not waves. It is deeper. Slower. Almost like the sea itself is groaning beneath an impossible weight. You step closer to the glass and peer into the growing darkness. At first, you see nothing. Only endless water. Then lightning flashes across the horizon. For the briefest moment, the ocean is lit like daylight. And there, far to the north, you notice something impossible. A ship. Alone. Its sails are torn. Its mast leans dangerously to one side. Yet it continues moving. Straight toward the jagged cliffs. No captain would choose this route. Every sailor knows these waters are cursed with hidden rocks sharp enough to split the strongest ship in half. Unless they cannot see your light. Your heart begins to race. You turn toward the beacon. The flame is burning brightly. There is no reason they should miss it. Another flash of lightning. The ship is closer now. The waves lift it high into the air before dropping it into dark valleys of water. Even from this distance, you can feel the storm growing stronger. The wind slams against the tower with such force that the iron framework around the lantern begins to rattle. You tighten every latch on the windows. Check the oil reservoir once more. Everything appears normal. Yet something feels terribly wrong. The air inside the lantern room has changed. It smells different. Not of smoke. Not of burning oil. But of salt and rain. You glance upward. Dark clouds are circling directly above the lighthouse. They move in strange patterns, almost as if they are spinning around the tower itself. You remember an old fisherman from the village. Years ago, while sharing bread beside a small fire, he told you a story. The sea gives warnings before it takes lives. Birds disappear. The wind changes its voice. And the clouds gather over the tallest light. You laughed then. Tonight. You are no longer laughing. Rain begins without warning. Huge drops strike the glass like handfuls of thrown stones. Within seconds, the windows become rivers of water. Visibility vanishes. The beam of your lighthouse struggles to push through the storm. You feed more wood into the fire. More oil. The flames leap higher. Still. The darkness outside seems to swallow the light. The tower suddenly trembles. Not gently. Violently. Dust falls from the ceiling. The lantern chains sway overhead. For a terrifying moment, you wonder if the entire structure might collapse. You grip the stone wall until your knuckles turn white. The storm roars louder than anything you have ever heard. It is no ordinary storm. It feels as though the sea has declared war against the land itself. Another bolt of lightning tears across the sky. This time, you clearly see the ship. It is much closer. Too close. You can make out frightened figures running across its deck. Someone waves a lantern desperately toward the shore. They have seen you. They are begging for help. You cannot leave the lighthouse. If the fire dies, every ship in these waters will be blind. But if you stay, those people may never reach the safety of the harbor. For the first time in many years, you are forced to choose between protecting the light or risking everything to save strangers whose names you will never know. Outside, the storm grows even louder. Inside, the flame flickers. And somewhere deep within your heart, you realize that before this night is over, history may forget your name. But the sea never will.
The storm grows stronger with every passing minute. Rain lashes against the lantern room so fiercely that it sounds like thousands of tiny stones striking the glass. The wind howls through every crack in the tower, creating a haunting whistle that seems almost human. You have lived in this lighthouse for many years, yet you have never heard it make a sound like this. The beacon still burns, but not with the steady confidence it had only moments ago. Its flame bends sharply every time another powerful gust shakes the tower. Shadows dance wildly across the stone walls, making the room feel alive. You step closer to the fire and carefully pour another measure of whale oil into the basin. The flames rise higher for a moment, filling the lantern room with warm golden light. Then, without warning, the entire tower shudders. A deafening crack echoes from somewhere below. Your heart skips a beat. You freeze, listening carefully. Another crack follows. Not thunder, not lightning. Wood. Old wood. Somewhere inside the lighthouse, ancient beams are straining under the force of the storm. You grab your lantern and hurry toward the narrow staircase leading downward. Every step creaks beneath your boots as you descend into the tower's middle level. The air here is colder, darker, and filled with the smell of damp stone. The sound grows louder. You finally discover its source. One of the heavy support beams has shifted slightly from its place. Rainwater is dripping through a gap in the roof above it. The timber is still holding, but it will not survive forever if the storm continues. You run your hand across the rough wood. It vibrates with every powerful gust outside. For a brief moment, fear creeps into your mind. If the tower collapses, the beacon will fall. Every ship at sea will lose its guide. You push the thought away. Fear has no place here. You climb back to the lantern room as quickly as your tired legs allow. By the time you reach the top, your breathing is heavy. The fire has weakened again, not because of the wind, because the oil is running low. You kneel beside the remaining barrels. Only 2 are left. Enough for perhaps a single night under normal conditions, but tonight is far from normal. The storm is forcing the fire to burn faster than ever before. You calculate silently. If you use all the oil now, the light may survive until dawn, but if the storm lasts another day, there will be nothing left. Your hands tighten around the barrel. There is no perfect choice. Outside, lightning flashes again. This time you see not 1 ship, but 3, all struggling against the monstrous waves. Their lanterns appear and disappear between walls of black water. They are depending on your light. You cannot allow it to fail. Taking a deep breath, you pour more oil into the basin. The flame surges upward, brighter than ever. Its golden beam cuts through the rain, reaching farther into the darkness. For the first time that night, you feel a small spark of hope. Perhaps they will make it. Perhaps this lighthouse will survive until morning, but the storm has not finished testing you. A violent gust slams directly into the glass surrounding the beacon. One of the iron window latches snaps open. The window bursts inward. Freezing wind explodes into the lantern room. Ash flies through the air. The flames bend almost flat. Your lantern rolls across the floor. You throw yourself toward the open window without thinking. With both hands, you grab the heavy iron frame. The wind fights against you with unbelievable strength. Rain blinds your eyes. Your fingers begin to lose feeling from the cold. Slowly, painfully, you force the window shut. The broken latch cannot hold. You remove your thick leather belt and wrap it tightly around the iron handle, pulling until it locks the window in place. Only then do you step back. Your hands are bleeding, your clothes are soaked. Your entire body trembles from exhaustion, yet the fire still burns. You stare into its dancing flames. This tiny light is the only thing standing between hope and disaster. No king will ever hear of this night. No priest will write your name in a great book. No monument will be built for the keeper who refused to let the flame die. But somewhere beyond the storm, frightened sailors will one day embrace their families again, without ever knowing that a single exhausted guardian standing alone in a forgotten lighthouse made their journey home possible. You whisper a quiet prayer as another wave crashes against the cliffs below. Deep inside, you know the hardest part of the night has not yet arrived.
The lighthouse has survived another hour. Barely. The flame still burns inside the great iron lantern, throwing its warm golden beam across the raging sea. Every few moments, sheets of rain swallow the light completely, but as the wind shifts, the beacon breaks through the darkness again, like a lonely star refusing to disappear. You lean against the cold stone wall, trying to catch your breath. Your hands ache from forcing the heavy window shut. Tiny cuts cover your fingers where the iron latch tore through your gloves. Blood mixes with rainwater, disappearing into the cracks of the ancient floor. There is no time to rest. The storm continues to grow stronger. The tower groans as another powerful wave crashes against the cliffs below. The sound rises through the stone like distant thunder, making the entire lighthouse tremble beneath your feet. Then, you hear it. A bell. Not the church bell from the fishing village. Not the iron bell hanging beside the lighthouse door. This sound comes from the sea. It rings once. Then again. A desperate warning carried by the wind. You rush toward the eastern window and wipe away the water covering the thick glass. At first, all you see is darkness. Then lightning tears across the sky. For one blinding second, the entire coastline becomes visible. Your heart sinks. The ship you spotted earlier has drifted far closer than you imagined. It is no longer fighting the waves. It is trapped. The current has pushed it directly toward the black rocks, a jagged line of hidden cliffs feared by every sailor who has ever sailed these waters. Even on calm days, experienced captains steer miles away from them. Tonight, the storm has given the crew no choice. Another wave crashes into the vessel. The ship rises high into the air before slamming down onto the rocks with terrifying force. Even from the lighthouse, you hear the splintering wood. The mast snaps in half. One sail disappears into the sea. Tiny figures stumble across the deck, desperately trying to hold on to the rails. You know exactly what happens next. If another wave strikes, the hull will split apart. The sea will claim everyone aboard. You grip the edge of the window until your knuckles turn white. Your mind races. The lighthouse cannot be left alone. The beacon needs constant attention. The fire must be fed. The glass must be protected. If you abandon your post and the light goes out, every other ship in the storm could meet the same fate. But if you remain here, those people have almost no chance of surviving. For several long seconds, you simply stand there, listening to the storm. Listening to your own heartbeat. No rule book has prepared you for this moment. The old keeper who trained you many years ago once said something you never forgot. The lighthouse does not belong to the man who keeps it. It belongs to every soul lost at sea. At the time, you thought he was speaking about duty. Tonight, you finally understand. You hurry downstairs, moving as fast as the narrow staircase allows. Inside a small storage room hangs a thick coil of rope, carefully dried after every storm. Beside it rests an old wooden rescue basket reinforced with iron bands. It is heavy, awkward, and rarely used. The last rescue happened before you arrived. More than 20 years ago. You sling the rope across your shoulder and grab a hand lantern. Before opening the lighthouse door, you pause. The wind outside sounds like an angry beast clawing at the walls. You whisper a short prayer. Not for yourself. For the strangers waiting in the darkness. The moment you pull open the heavy oak door, the storm nearly knocks you off your feet. Rain strikes your face like handfuls of ice. The path leading down the cliff is almost invisible. Mud covers the stones. Each step threatens to send you sliding toward the crashing waves below. You hold the lantern close to your chest, shielding its tiny flame beneath your cloak. Its light is weak compared to the great beacon above, but it is enough to guide your footing. You move carefully along the cliff path. Twice you nearly fall. Once, a loose stone tumbles into the darkness, taking several seconds before you hear it strike the sea. The sound reminds you how little separates life from death on nights like this. Finally, you reach the rescue platform built halfway down the cliff. From here, the wrecked ship is much closer. The scene before you is heartbreaking. The vessel is wedged between two enormous rocks. Every wave crashes over its deck. Men cling desperately to broken ropes. One sailor is trying to lower a small lifeboat, but another wave smashes it into the side of the ship before it ever reaches the water. The boat shatters instantly. Someone aboard spots your lantern. A cry echoes through the storm. Then another. Within seconds, every survivor is waving desperately toward the cliff. Hope. They have seen hope. You quickly tie one end of the rescue rope around an ancient iron anchor fixed deep into the rock. With shaking hands, you secure the wooden rescue basket. The wind fights every movement. Rain blinds your eyes. One mistake could send the entire basket into the sea. You take one final look upward. Far above, the lighthouse beam still sweeps across the ocean. Its warm light cuts through the darkness, refusing to surrender. You draw a deep breath. Now comes the most dangerous task of your life. If the rope holds, you may save them. If it snaps, the sea will take you with the rest.
Voice 5, The Rescue in the Storm. The rope feels rough against your frozen hands. You pull it one final time, making certain the heavy iron anchor buried deep within the cliff can withstand the impossible weight it is about to carry. For years, this rescue line has hung untouched, waiting for a night exactly like this. You always hoped that night would never come. Yet here it is. The wind screams around the cliff with such force that you can barely hear your own breathing. Rain pours into your eyes, blurring the world into shifting shadows and flashes of silver whenever lightning tears across the sky. Far below, the trapped ship groans like a wounded animal. Each crashing wave forces its wooden hull deeper against the jagged rocks. Every impact sends splinters flying into the sea. The vessel that carried merchants, sailors, and dreams across the water is slowly being torn apart. You cannot wait any longer. You secure the rescue basket to the rope and slowly lower it over the edge of the cliff. Immediately, the wind catches it. The basket swings wildly from side to side, slamming against the wet rocks with a heavy thud. You tighten your grip and lean backward, using your full weight to steady the line. Every muscle in your shoulders burns. Slowly, painfully, the basket descends toward the stranded ship. The sailors notice it almost at once. One of them points upward. Another removes his soaked cap and waves it desperately. You cannot hear their words, but you understand exactly what they are saying. Hope has arrived. The basket reaches the deck just as another enormous wave crashes across the ship. For a terrifying moment, both disappear beneath white water. Your heart nearly stops. Then the sea pulls back. The basket is still there. Two sailors rush toward it, helping an elderly man whose legs can barely support him. His grey beard is soaked with seawater, and even from this distance, you can see exhaustion written across his face. They carefully place him inside. The old man looks upward toward the lighthouse. Toward you. He removes a small wooden cross hanging around his neck and kisses it before gripping the sides of the basket. You take a deep breath. Now comes the difficult part. You begin pulling. The rope feels heavier than anything you have ever lifted. Every inch demands every ounce of strength you possess. Your boots slide across the rain-soaked stone. You plant your feet more firmly. Pull. Step backward. Pull again. Little by little, the basket begins climbing the cliff. The wind refuses to help. Instead, it swings the basket violently, smashing it against the rocks. Each impact makes you fear the rope will snap. But it holds. Halfway up, another wave crashes into the ship below. You glance down for only a second. The main deck is beginning to break apart. Large sections of timber vanish beneath the sea. There is no time left. With one final desperate effort, you drag the basket onto solid ground. The elderly sailor collapses onto the rocks, coughing seawater onto the muddy path. He tries to stand. You gently place a hand on his shoulder. "Stay here," you whisper. Though the storm steals your words, he understands. His tired eyes fill with gratitude. But the rescue has only begun. You immediately lower the basket again. This time, a young sailor climbs inside. He cannot be more than 16 years old. His face is pale with fear. He clutches a small leather pouch tightly against his chest as though it contains everything he owns. Again, you pull. Again, the wind fights you. Again, the cliff demands every remaining bit of your strength. By the time the young sailor reaches safety, your hands are raw. The skin beneath your gloves has torn open. Every pull of the rope leaves fresh blood upon the rough fibers. Still, you continue. A mother comes next, shielding a frightened little girl beneath her soaked cloak. The child cannot stop crying. She buries her face against her mother's shoulder while the basket rises through the storm. You whisper another silent prayer until they reach the cliff. Safe. Then another sailor. Then another. Each journey feels longer than the last. Each rescue drains what little strength remains inside you. Finally, only one man remains aboard the ship. The captain. He refuses to leave. Not until every soul has escaped. You recognize the determination in his eyes. It is the same duty that kept you inside the lighthouse while the storm raged. He secures the basket one final time. Before climbing inside, he removes his weathered captain's hat. He bows his head toward the lighthouse. Not toward a king. Not toward a church. Toward the lonely tower whose light refused to surrender. Toward the keeper whose name he does not know. You pull with everything left inside you. Your vision blurs. Your arms tremble uncontrollably. Your back burns with pain. The rope feels impossibly heavy. Yet somehow, one last time, the basket reaches the cliff. The captain steps onto solid ground. For several seconds, neither of you speaks. Words are unnecessary. He simply places his hand over his heart and nods. It is the deepest thank you either of you has ever given. Then, as if the sea has accepted defeat, a thunderous crack echoes through the darkness. You both turn toward the wreck. The great ship breaks apart. Its bow disappears beneath the waves. Within moments, nothing remains except broken timbers drifting across the black water. Had you arrived even a few minutes later, no one would have survived. You look back toward the lighthouse. Its beacon still burns high above the storm. A single flame, still guiding strangers safely home. For a long moment, the captain says a word. The storm still rages around you, but something has changed. The desperate panic that filled the night has faded, replaced by the quiet relief of survival. The rescued sailors sit against the cold rocks, breathing heavily, their soaked clothes clinging to their bodies. Some stare silently at the scene where their ship disappeared only moments ago. Others bow their heads in prayer, thanking God for another sunrise they were certain they would never see. The little girl clings tightly to her mother. She has finally stopped crying. Her small hands still tremble, but when she looks toward the lighthouse standing high above the cliff, there is wonder in her eyes instead of fear. To her, that tower must seem like something magical. A light that appeared out of the darkness exactly when hope had almost disappeared. Only you know the truth. There is nothing magical about it. Only stone. Fire. And years of lonely work that no one ever notices until disaster arrives. The captain slowly walks toward you. His face is weathered by decades at sea. Deep lines cross his forehead, and his beard is streaked with gray. One sleeve of his heavy coat has been torn away during the wreck, exposing a bleeding arm. Even now, he stands with quiet dignity. He removes the silver compass hanging around his neck. It is old. The polished metal is scratched from years of use. Around its edge are tiny carvings of waves and stars. Without speaking, he offers it to you. You immediately shake your head. You cannot accept it. The compass belongs to him. It has likely guided him across countless voyages. But the captain gently closes your hand around it. This brought me across many seas, he says softly. Tonight. He pauses, looking toward the lighthouse. Your light guided me farther than this compass ever could. You look down at the small instrument resting in your palm. For a moment, you consider refusing again. Then you quietly nod. Not because you want the gift, but because refusing it would dishonor the gratitude behind it. The rescued sailors begin climbing the narrow path toward the lighthouse. They move slowly, helping one another over the slippery stones. The elderly man you rescued first struggles with every step. Without hesitation, the young sailor supports him. The storm may have destroyed their ship, but it has reminded them that survival is never achieved alone. By the time everyone reaches the lighthouse courtyard, the eastern sky has begun to change. The blackness of night softens into deep blue. The rain grows lighter. The wind, though still cold, no longer blows from the same angle. Far beyond the horizon, the first pale line of dawn appears. You climb the tower once more. Every step feels heavier than before. Your muscles ache from the rescue. Your shoulders burn. Your hands are wrapped in strips of cloth torn from an old linen sack, yet fresh blood continues to stain the bandages. When you finally reach the lantern room, the great beacon is still burning. The fire has grown smaller. Only glowing coals remain beneath the final pieces of wood. You carefully add the last of your fuel. Not much is left. Just enough to keep the light alive until sunrise. You stand beside the lantern as the first rays of morning spread across the sea. The storm clouds begin to break apart. Golden sunlight slips through the gaps, touching the restless waves below. The ocean that seemed so terrifying only hours ago now looks almost peaceful. Broken pieces of the wrecked ship drift silently across the water. A shattered mast, fragments of railing, an empty barrel. The sea keeps what it cannot save. You slowly extinguish the beacon. Not because it has failed, because its work is finally complete. Thin ribbons of smoke rise toward the ceiling. The lantern room falls quiet. A silence you have not heard all night. Down below, the rescued sailors prepare to leave for the nearby village. Before they go, every one of them turns toward the lighthouse. Some remove their hats. Others bow their heads. No speeches are made. No grand celebration follows. There are no royal messengers waiting with medals. No scribes arrive to record what happened here. History rarely writes about nights like this. It remembers kings who declared wars. It remembers castles that conquered nations. It remembers the names of powerful men whose portraits filled great halls. But it almost never remembers the king who stood alone against a storm so that strangers could return home. Years pass. New captains sail these waters. Children grow into saints of their own. Old fishermen tell stories about a terrible storm that once swallowed a great merchant ship. Some claim an angel lit the lighthouse that night. Others insist the sea itself spared the survivors. Very few remember there was simply one time when people refused to let the flame die. Eventually, another man takes your place. Your hair turns white. Your steps grow slower. One quiet autumn morning, you climb the lighthouse stairs for the final time. You light the beacon as you have done thousands of evenings before. You watch the sun disappear beyond the endless sea. Then you hand the keys to a younger keeper. No ceremony. No applause. Only another ordinary sunset. As you walk away, you look back one last time. The lighthouse stands exactly as it always has. Its light shines across the dark water, guiding people who will never know your name. And somehow, that is enough. Because history may forget the keeper. But every sailor who safely found the shore carried a small part of your courage home with them. Long after your footsteps disappeared from the cliffs, the light continued to shine.